Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the First Friday Fives of 2019. I'm your host, Sean, and I wanted to start off the new year with something fun. Now, obviously, the term big bore refers to the diameter of the opening at the end of the barrel. But if you're like me, you want your big bores to have some spicy habanero sauce on them to make things interesting. After all, large amounts of lead served with large amounts of gunpowder can be a tasty treat for range time fun. And while true hand cannons will be single shot or rotating cylinder affairs, the desire to have a modern semi-automatic Magnum blaster in the palm of your hand is just overwhelming. But there aren't a ton of semi-autos out there that can shoot a legitimate Magnum round, so we're going to count down the top 5, quite possibly the only 5, big-bore Magnum-powered semi-automatic handguns. Before we get started with the list, I wanted to give an honorable mention, and that's the Coonan 1911 357 Magnum. Designed in the 1980s by Dan Coonan, the gun was born over an argument with his college roommate about the .45 ACP versus the .357 Magnum. Coonan's pistol was the result, and while the company was sold and went out of business in the 1990s, the pistol is back in production thanks to the original designer reacquiring it. Some improvements have been made, and it's increased the reliability. There's no denying that this is one cool Magnum-powered semi-auto, but since its bore doesn't make the cut, it didn't make the list. Number 5. The Automag. Released in 1971, the original Automag was the first real semi-automatic Magnum. It was short recoil operated and used a rotating bolt with locking lugs, much like the AR-15. It fired a new version of the .44 Magnum, the .44 Automag Pistol, or .44 AMP. The cartridge was similar to the .44 Remington Magnum we all know and love, with a slight increase in the case length and the rim being reduced to a rimless design to increase reliability in a semi-auto. Ballistically, it is very similar to the .44 Magnum, and if you're a fan of the Dirty Harry franchise, you probably recognize this gun from the 4th installment in the series, Sudden Impact. With a familiar caliber and a cameo in Detective Callahan's mitts, you may wonder why it seems so obscure. The short answer is business practices and costs. The first Automag was delivered on August 8, 1971, and the company declared bankruptcy on May 3, 1972, after only making 3,000 of them. That's a very short and kind of sad 9-month lifespan. To make a long story short, they started by producing the pistol well under cost in order to try and get interest in the product moving. But a large semi-auto Magnum pistol is a bit of a novelty, and the buyers were not as numerous as the company had hoped. The company opened and closed several times under many different names over the next 10 years, and after making roughly 9,000 pistols in total, they disappeared. Buying them used is an expensive proposition these days, but if you want one, they have returned. The company name and rights were purchased in 2015, and a number of pistols have already been released into the wild. Granted, production has had a number of hiccups and parts supplier issues, so it's tough to say what the future will be for this pistol. And the price of admission isn't cheap, starting at $3,500 US at the time this video was made. But if you want one, and you have the money, the new and improved version of this classic can be yours. And if you have a penchant for the originals and the money to afford them, you can find one of those out there too. Number 4. The AMT Automag IV V. AMT, or Arcadia Machine and Tool, was founded in 1977 and was one of the company names that produced the original Automag. In 1987, they designed a successor, if you will, to the original Automag that was closer in design to a 1911 style pistol, though they were blowback operated as opposed to the 1911's tilting barrel short recoil operation. And they fired, well, the .22 Magnum cartridge. But never fear, they did decide to go up caliber down the road. In 1992, they made some changes that started with the Automag III, including a return to that oh-so-familiar tilting barrel short recoil operation. This may have something to do with Harry Sanford, the designer of the original Automag, having designed this new Automag III. It was originally designed for 9mm Winchester Magnum, but is more prominently known for firing the .30 carbine cartridge. I know, we're still not in big bore country, wait for it. Also in 1992 was the Automag IV, and this time it fired a big bore Magnum cartridge, the .45 Winchester Magnum. Now we're talking. The next year, in 1993, they added the oh-so-rare and barely heard of 10mm Magnum. This is where the cartridge first appeared to the public at large, though at the time you had to hand-load it because nobody made any factory ammunition. Just a thought here, but this may have contributed to the cartridge never catching on, maybe. While the 10mm Magnum was short-lived, the .45 Winchester Magnum chambered Automag IV was produced until AMT went out of business by going bankrupt in 2001. Along with AMT releasing the 10mm Magnum chambering for the Automag IV in 1993, they also released the Automag V in 50 Action Express, which gave Magnum Research's Desert Eagle some direct competition. Sadly, the Automag V ceased production in only 1995 as it never enjoyed the same popularity as the Desert Eagle when chambered in the same caliber. After they closed their doors, AMT was purchased by Standard Manufacturing, which has only produced the Automag II thus far. Gone but not forgotten, the Automag IV and V were true powerhouse semi-autos. Number 3. The Wildey Pistol. You'd be surprised that this behemoth was developed in 1973, shortly after the original Automag. With a chamber built to handle pressures of up to 48,000 psi, this pistol was ready for what its designer, Wildey J. Moore, had in mind. And what he had in mind was powerful cartridges for silhouette shooting and hunting. You could have it chambered in 9mm Winchester Magnum, 44 Auto Magnum, 45 Winchester Magnum, or one of the many proprietary cartridges, being 357 Wildey Magnum, 41 Wildey Magnum, 44 Wildey Magnum, 45 Wildey Magnum, or the infamous flagship round, the 475 Wildey Magnum. The 475 Wildey Magnum was developed in 1977 and was made famous in Death Wish 3 when Charles Bronson's character Paul Kersey calls on his friend Wildey to assist him in stopping criminals. His description of the cartridge as being a shorter version of an African game hunting cartridge is a bit convoluted, as in reality it was derived from the 284 Winchester. But if its parent's case sounds deflating, don't be fooled. It will shoot bullets ranging from 230 grains at 1,941 feet per second to 350 grains flying out of the muzzle at 1,396 feet per second. This is a seriously powerful cartridge that really had no semi-auto rival until 1988. We'll get to that later. Using a 3-lug rotating bolt in a fixed barrel, the Wildey was available as double and single action. It utilizes a patented short-stroke gas operation, unlike the two previous entries' short recoil operation. And a nice feature was that it had a manually modifiable gas regulator, which could allow the shooter to dial in the best function for different loadings. That's pretty innovative. While the company faced many troubles over the years, it was a combination of litigation and the original creators' failing health that caused them to suspend production in 2011. However, after the usual agreeable business deals were made, the USA Firearms Corporation started producing Wildey pistols again in 2016. And if you're willing to pony up the current price tag of $2,750 US to $2,950 US, you too can proudly proclaim, "Wildey's here," just as Paul Kersey once did. Number 2. The LAR Grizzly. Now this is the number 2 gun on this list, but it's my personal favorite and I hope to own one someday. The LAR Grizzly was designed by Perry Arnett and its design was sold to LAR Manufacturing. It is essentially just a bigger version of the venerable 1911 pistol, with the prototype even being made by taking two 1911s and putting them together to accommodate its larger cartridge. And that cartridge was the 45 Winchester Magnum. With the original 1911 being chambered in the 45 Auto, what else would befit an Andre the Giant size 1911? The Mark I and Mark II pistols appeared initially in 1983, with the Mark I being blued and the Mark II being a Parkerized and slightly less expensive version. Now, I couldn't find any information whatsoever on a Mark III, so if anyone who's watching has any information on it, please do share in the comments, as we'd really love to know more. The Mark I and Mark II guns also had available conversion kits for folks who didn't want to always shoot the 45 WinMag. Those kits came in 45 ACP, 357 Magnum, and 10mm Auto. Each conversion kit came with a barrel, barrel bushing, magazine, recoil spring, guide rod, ejector, and extractor. LAR made 2 other iterations of the Grizzly as well, the Mark IV, which was chambered in 44 Remington Magnum, and the Mark V, chambered in the 50 Action Express. Naturally, one must ask why these guns went out of production. While they were not troubled by bad business decisions like the original Automag, bad reliability and bankruptcy like the AMT Automags, nor the complexities of the gas-operated Wildey, they had legitimate concerns around litigation. In 1998 and 1999, there were a lot of attempts to sue handgun manufacturers. Despite not having been one of those manufacturers, they stopped production for a time, fearing that some attorney somewhere had their eye on LAR for a sweet, sweet lawsuit. When they attempted to restart the assembly line and get production rolling again, their insurance company had tripled their liability rates. Ow! Ooh, that is one steep increase to cost. So they decided the costs were not worth it and did not get back into business. But there were roughly 15,000 of them made, and they are often up for sale. So if you think these are as cool as I do, start watching Gunbroker to pick one up for yourself. Number 1. Drum roll, please. The Magnum Research Desert Eagle. Oh, bite me. Of the previous 4 pistols on this list, 2 are completely out of production, and the 2 that are being produced again after having their production stopped for a time are extremely expensive and extremely rare. But the Desert Eagle has never stopped being produced, and it's still running strong. Designed by Bernard C. White and Arnold Steinbergs, the first of their patents for a gas-operated pistol was filed in January of 1983, with a second patent filed in 1985 after some refinements were made by Israel Military Industries, which is now Israel Weapon Industries. The Desert Eagle was initially chambered in .357 Magnum and .44 Magnum, with the .41 Magnum being added for a while. But the caliber that really caught everyone's attention was the .50 Action Express that began being chambered in the gun in the late 80s, early 90s timeframe. The fact that there was a mass-produced, Magnum-powered .50 caliber handgun caught the attention of just about everybody. The big bore was a big deal, and it captured many imaginations, including a child who would later grow up to create a big bore-themed YouTube channel. While the .50 Action Express had its drawbacks, it was an interesting and powerful round. But it wasn't the last round the Desert Eagle would be chambered in. There was a prototype built in .357 44 Bain & Davis, which is a .44 Magnum neck down to a .357, but it was only in a prototype and never made it into production. However, the notorious .440 Carbon was also produced for a while, but it was discontinued, as was the .41 Magnum. This left the .357 Magnum, the .44 Magnum, and the .50 Action Express as the only chamberings until late 2018, when Magnum Research produced an improved version of the .440 Carbon, which they called the .429DE. At the time of this video, the cartridge has only been on the market for a few months. Hopefully it will stand the test of time. While there has been some debate over reliability, the accuracy of the Desert Eagle has always been excellent, and its unique look, massive size, and .50 caliber option has put it square in the public eye. It has been in more than 500 movies and/or TV shows, and has an iconic pop culture status that has kept it alive and kept sales moving. With powerful chamberings, accuracy that makes shooters grin, and popularity keeping the production alive, the Desert Eagle easily takes the number 1 spot. So let's run down that list before we go. Number 5. The original Automag, the first Magnum-powered semi-automatic handgun. Number 4. The AMT Automag IV and V, the successors to the original. Number 3. The Wildey Pistol, the gas-powered wonder that made Charles Bronson look that much tougher. Number 2. The LAR Grizzly, for turning the 1911 into a Magnum-powered version of the classic. And number 1. The Magnum Research Desert Eagle, powerful, ubiquitous, and continuing to be available for hunters, silhouette shooters, target shooters, and novelty lovers. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the list. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about these pistols, Ian McCollum of Forgotten Weapons has gone over pretty much all of them on his channel, and the videos are excellent. I apologize for the delay in getting this out, as I am looking to ramp up the channel this year due to an increase in interest. The latter half of 2018 was hectic, and there were some things going on behind the scenes that were real issues for us personally. But things have smoothed over, and I am looking to really expand our videos this year, so stay tuned. And of course, remember, go big bore or go home.